It's the best feeling in the world to go to the movies and feel like you actually saw a movie. Do you know what I mean?
Hi, I'm Abby, and this is the Ab Show.
Hi, I'm Abby, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, 1 Minute Off. Wow, it's bright out today. Some of you will notice that I don't have my Quebec flag in the background. That's because I'm moving. So that's fun. Is it just me, or has it felt like the entire past year, whenever you went to the movies, it was like mostly recognizable IPs that were playing? Seems like every time I went to the movies last year, I would like audibly groan during one of the prequels because like I didn't want to see a reboot. In fact, I think I talked about this a few videos ago, but this year, the top 10 grossing movies were just reboots or rehashes of stuff, so. I mean, the 3 highest grossing movies were Inside Out 2, Dune Part 2, and Beetlejuice. That's kind of sad, man. That's really sad. And if they weren't redos, there was a good chance that, you know, the movie was made with AI in some capacity. It's just always really nice to go to the movies and see like a completely original movie that actually makes me feel something, you know? I don't know, like reminds me of why I liked going to the movies in the first place. What's even nicer is that pretty much all the trailers I saw before this movie I'm going to talk about started were pretty original trailers, including Bob Torino Likes It, Novocaine, Hard Eyes, and Death of a Unicorn. They all just, you know, seemed like original ideas and stories that people in the movie business just wanted to tell. And after, you know, a year or more of these rehashes as well as artificial intelligence, like kind of seeping in, this movie is like a shining diamond in the rough. Because for, you know, all the noise about how originality is dead and how studios only care about safe bets and existing IPs, it turns out that, you know, somewhere unique, heartfelt films are still being made. They're just underneath all the other slop. It's not really fair that we have to trudge through to find them, but we do. They might not get the biggest budget of all time or the widest releases or like any marketing at all, but they exist. And maybe, just maybe, audiences will show up for them. Unfortunately, the latter is not the case for the movie I'm talking about today. And given the star, as well as, you know, the perception of older women in Hollywood and how that's changed over the past few years, especially with the popularity of The Substance, I'm a little surprised that it's not more popular. Made with just $2 million and filming in just 18 days, the movie I'm talking about today is called The Last Showgirl, with Jamie Lee Curtis, Brenda Song, Kiernan Shipka, Dave Bautista, and in the starring role, Pamela Anderson. This came out in select theaters in December 2024 and later in some others in January, but there was really not a lot of marketing around it as far as I could tell. I didn't really see a lot of it except for maybe a trailer in the theater for another movie I was seeing and maybe a few like news article advertisements. And I'm like the biggest Pamela Anderson fan out there, I think. Directed by Gia Coppola and with a script written by Kate Gerson of The Good Place fame, The Last Showgirl tells the story of Shelley, a woman who has been a showgirl on the dance line of the iconic La Razzle Dazzle Revue on the Las Vegas Strip for the past 3 decades. The film details her reaction when her and her fellow dancers find out that the show, which has been around for 38 years and is the very last Vegas Revue around, is closing soon due to unpopularity. Pamela Anderson plays Shelley, the once radiant star and main attraction of La Razzle Dazzle, who is now in her late 50s. Having been the face of the show for several years, as she's gotten older, she's gradually moved back in the line behind the girls who get younger and younger, but she is still the biggest fan of the show among her coworkers. She feels like the show is the last bit of Parisian culture left in Vegas. Not just another nudie show or another dead-end gig as her coworkers often view it. Shelley is bubbly and soft-spoken with this like warm and effortless charm, which is this wonderful version of Pamela Anderson that people don't really get to tune into very much. But more on that later. La Razzle Dazzle is based on the feather-clad showgirls that used to be synonymous with Vegas entertainment back in the 20th century. In 1869, the Folies Bergère were introduced in a Parisian cabaret hall, launching careers such as that of Josephine Baker. In 1959, Lou Walters, the father of Barbara Walters, and the then entertainment director for the Tropicana Las Vegas, imported the Foleys directly into his hotel. The show went on to become the longest-running show in Vegas history, finally coming to a close in March of 2009. And with the destruction of that iconic hotel back in October, making way for a $1.5 billion baseball stadium, seemed like kind of a perfect time to put this movie out.
I mean, Las Vegas used to treat us like movie stars.
The movie begins with Shelley auditioning for a show where she initially lies about her age. Right as she begins her act, the movie cuts back to Shelley's life outside her performance. We first see Shelley with Annette, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, Shelley's older friend who was also in the Razzle Dazzle but was ousted years prior due to her age, and now works as a cocktail waitress at the casino. Annette is more or less of a vodka aunt, telling Shelley you can't really rely on men to save you. The two are picking up fish for a date that Shelley has later, but the man in question calls and cancels. They decide to have dinner together and invite over Jody and Marianne, portrayed by Shipka and Song, who who are two younger fellow showgirls who sort of see Shelley as this mother figure, filling in for their own lack of them. And her young co-workers represent these different counterpoints. Jodie is young and optimistic and sees the revue as just another dance gig, or so we think. And according to Shelley, is willing to sacrifice quality dance for cheap entertainment. Marianne sees the gig as yet another dead-end job, and just wants to get out of Las Vegas. Neither of the younger girls have the same respect for the show in the way that Shelley does, having been there for 3 decades, as an iconic, tasteful piece of Vegas history. To everybody's chagrin, Jodie invites over Eddie, the producer of the show, over to Shelley's house for dinner as well, saying that she feels like they're all just one big family. Halfway through this incredibly awkward dinner, Eddie drops the bombshell news. La Razzle Dazzle is going to close in 2 weeks, replaced by an erotic circus. This is devastating news for everyone at the table, but most of all Shelley, who has been on the line essentially her entire life, having given up a lot more than we know at this point to be there.
Oh. What is wrong with you?
The rest of the movie details the following days as the women put on their last shows and try to figure out their next steps. Jodie and Marianne try out for other dance shows, which seem to require nothing more than just being sexy, as Jason Schwartzman puts it. About halfway through the movie, we meet Hannah, Shelley's estranged college-age daughter, who comes to see her mother's review for the first time in her life. The relationship between these two is clearly fragmented, with Shelley acting really nervous around her daughter and Hannah acting really guarded around her mother. It is revealed that when Hannah was young, Shelley sent her away to live with Lisa, who is this off-screen character, who basically represents a more stable life than the one Shelley could have given Hannah. One with a husband-father figure and a big house and a picket fence and kids her own age and the ability to pay for college tuition. In other words, not the life of a girl whose mother dances in a Vegas revue. What I love about this movie is that Pamela Anderson finally gets her long-deserved chance to show off these dramatic acting chops. She brings it like 110%. During a particularly tense scene between the mother and daughter, we find out that Hannah's angry with Shelley because she assumes Shelley gave Hannah up for this revue life, which Hannah feels is degrading and stupid, and just not worth giving up a daughter for. Shelley feels like she did the right thing by trying to give Hannah a better chance at life. Both these viewpoints are pretty valid, and the tension is just like, it's unreal. This scene almost made me cry. However, while the relationship between Hannah and Shelley reveals to us this struggle Shelley feels as a mother to her own daughter, another scene with Jodie, the youngest dancer, shows us the other side of the mother coin. One night, Jodie shows up at Shelley's house alone, pleading with her to help her. It seems that her own mom won't answer her calls anymore, as her mom feels her career is not really exactly the one she wanted for her daughter. And she utters one of the most devastating lines in the film, which is, "I didn't know you can't go back." However, just as much as we, the audience, want Shelley to take this girl in her arms and make her some hot cocoa and just tell her it's all going to be okay, she doesn't. Shelley barely opens the door to Jodie, and she just tells her she needs to be alone and she's doing something right now, and she shuts it in her face. It's one of the most heart-wrenching scenes I've seen in a long time, especially how Shipka spends a lot of the movie just being in the comic relief. I don't want to give away any more spoilers to this movie because it's really it's so beautiful. And there is a twist that maybe you probably already guessed, but J. Coppola stated that she specifically wanted Pamela Anderson for this role. And once you see the movie, you'll immediately understand why there's really nobody more perfect to play her. Anderson herself shares a number of similarities to her character, having been literally the most iconic sex symbol of the 90s and, unfairly jettisoned into this harsh role of tabloids when they were at their ugliest peak. In 1989, Pamela Anderson was discovered at age 21 when she was randomly chosen out of the crowd at a BC Lions Canadian Football League game in Vancouver to be displayed on the Jumbotron just because she was wearing a Labatt's beer t-shirt. She then became the face of the beer company for a while until Hugh Hefner noticed her and flew her out to be a Playboy bunny, making her move to LA, where she would pose nude for several issues of the magazine. And within only the span of a few years, she would become one of, if not the most recognizable Playboy bunny. However, she would not only be remembered as a Playboy bunny, she would be remembered for a different reason. That, of course, being Baywatch, where she played C.J. Parker from 1992 to 1997. After she signed on to the show, Baywatch basically became synonymous with Pamela Anderson. Basically, it skyrocketed her to international fame. It's her most enduring and most famous role. I'd argue more so than being a Playboy bunny, to the point where, whenever I ask people, I'm like, oh, remember Baywatch? They're like, oh yeah, Pamela Anderson? And according to her documentary, she always wanted to be a serious actor. She always wanted to do that when she moved to LA. Well, she had a few attempts at breakout movie roles with Barbed Wire and Raw Justice. Her movie career would unfortunately never get off the ground. Yeah, yep, there's that elephant. In 1995, during her Baywatch stint, Pamela Anderson famously married Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee after just 4 days, as part of perhaps one of the most famous Hollywood couples to grace the tabloids. Their magazine fame skyrocketed 100-fold when a private home video of them was stolen from their house, unleashing this huge media frenzy. It was sold on the internet by the distribution company Internet Entertainment Group, without Pam and Tommy's consent. And though she sued the company, she ended up dismissing the case because she was pregnant at the time and didn't want the stress to affect her baby. So, in the following years, she, notably more than Tommy, became the subject of just ridicule and harassment, all because of a complete violation of privacy. And that's bad enough, but what's worse is that the popular opinion at the time, and one that still unfortunately persists today, is that she never deserved any privacy because she was never anything more than a Playboy bunny. When she entered the room for the IEG lawsuit, she said the lawyers arguing against her had hung up 15-foot posters of her naked body in order to make the argument that she had no problem sharing intimacy with the camera. And though she was offered $5 million for the rights to the tape, she never took it, and she never made a single dime off of it. Though it did end up making over $70 million for IEG. Her career from then on was seen as just nothing more than the dumb blonde with big. And for years and years, she was relegated to just minor television roles and reality TV because she was never seen as the one thing that she wanted to be seen as, which is a seriously good actor. I'm telling you all of this because a lot of the reviews that I've seen on this movie say things like, I didn't know she could act like that, or, oh, why haven't we seen her in more dramatic roles? And, well, the thing is, nobody let her be in them. Why would you put Pamela Anderson, perhaps the most well-known sex bombshell icon of the 90s, in your serious movie when you could have, Winona Ryder or Sharon Stone or Gwyneth Paltrow or Susan Sarandon or Demi Moore or any other prominent, established female actor who didn't do Playboy and who didn't have a sex tape leaked? No one gave her a chance after that came out until Gia Coppola did. And Pamela Anderson has spent the last few years saying you to makeup and to dressing in a sexualizing way, and fully embracing her beauty as a woman, which is something she never got the chance to do for herself. Few people, if any, have ever faced the level of criticism and harassment and abuse simply for just being a woman that Pamela Anderson has experienced. But somehow, after all she's been through, she still remains one of the most caring, sweetest people you'll ever hear speak.
What has helped you just keep going?
I don't know if I kept going. I went home to my garden to make pickles and jams. I didn't know I was going to get this opportunity, so when I got it, I grabbed it by the throat. I needed to know what I was made of. For me, I needed to know. I want to know what I'm capable of, because I don't know. I still feel like I've scratched the surface. That's what keeps you going. And if I can continue to play roles that challenge me like this, then I'm going to be the happiest girl in the world.
This is just one of those movies that you have to watch because it has so many ties to reality. Like, talk about art imitating life. There's no grand finale, there's no Pamela Anderson nudity, it's just a quiet, sad story about what it means to grow out of the limelight, sold from the perspective of one of the most iconic Hollywood women ever. Having been shot in just 18 days, there are a few parts of the movie that feel a little hazy, a little blurry, and a little maybe out of order. But I would vouch that that's the movie trying to make you feel the experience and the ambiguity for yourself. The Last Showgirl is a perfect cap to a year that seemed to recognize older women in Hollywood more than ever. Really, it's the substance without the horror. My heart will always be full of love and sympathy for Pamela Anderson. All she ever wanted to do was be taken seriously, and until this movie, it seemed like the world was just not really interested in that, or they weren't going to give that to her. And now she finally has a chance to do that, and I'm just... oh, it makes me cry. I want to read this excerpt from a review of The Last Showgirl by Coleman Spield. Sorry if I said that wrong. One that pretty much encapsulates how I feel. The Last Showgirl isn't wonderful just because Anderson plays a version of herself, but rather because Anderson fundamentally understands her character, empathizing with Shelley's desperation to hold on to modern life's fleeting romance. People used to be encouraged to pursue their dreams, not abandon them. Shelley can't see life any other way. When Hannah tells her mother that others have told her to give up photography to get a job that makes money, Shelley scoffs. That's the dumbest thing anyone ever told anybody with a dream, she replies. Those words are especially pertinent to Anderson, who once believed her time in the movies was finished. With her marvelous return to the screen in The Last Showgirl, Anderson declares that good, honest work is timeless. Craft and process are things that are worth defending, and the effort it takes to create something is part of what makes the finished work so special. The kicks are high because the dancers stretched. The costumes are shining because the seamstress stoned them. The showgirls are smiling because they worked for years to get to that stage. Automation might create the illusion of ease, but it will never replicate the radiant joy of watching people who love what they do. Thank you for listening and watching, as always. I hope this encourages at least one person to go check out the movie, because it's chef's kiss, it really is. And if you're down for a Pammy double feature, you should check out her documentary as well. I believe it's on Netflix. If you liked what you saw, or if you hated it for that matter, let me know down below in the comments. As always, feel free to like and subscribe. God, I hate saying that. I'm Abby, this is 1 Minute Off, and I'm gonna go watch some Baywatch. Bye.